So I'm very excited to be here. This is my third time back at this conference. First time speaking. Apologies for speaking and bringing the bad weather with me from London. So here to talk about customer data operations. So working at Hull, we work with a lot of data-driven marketers in B2B, helping them manage their customer data, helping them build this culture, as Michael was talking about. So those of you who came last year would have seen Guillaume Caban come and talk us through his experiments he was running in B2B personalization. Stuff from personalizing their entire onboarding set, to triggering personalized live chat on the website, to running 4.5 billion personalized variations of its homepage, all without the rest of his team knowing. So wonderful talk, wonderfully creative. But how do we do this? How do we go and implement this within our organizations? So since last year, we've been working with Guillaume, with Pep, with a bunch of other data-driven marketers, and we get to see the insides of this. We get to see what people are trying. We get to see the best practices and the pitfalls. So the brief for this talk was very simple. How do you do this? How do you get this hyper-personalization, this one-to-one experience at every single touch point, at every single channel? And you have two options. The first option, be a small local business. Intimately know your customers and everything about them. But for most people in the room, this isn't a reality. We're serving thousands of customers, millions of customers, some of us billions of customers. So what do? We use tools and data, whether it's email tools, ad tools, analytics tools, whatever. But every single one of these tools owns just part of that customer story, part of the customer data. It sits in silos. So no single tool knows everything about a customer. And this is a problem. Because for personalization, it's not a marketing problem. If personalization was just a marketing problem, everyone here would be doing it. We wouldn't be having a talk about this right now. Personalization is a data problem. It's about breaking down those silos and getting that full context like you're a small local business. So for the next 20, 25 minutes, I want to walk you through the best practices we've seen from working with different data-driven marketers. And I have to start with this. This, I don't know if you can see at the back, is 5,000 marketing tools. 5,000 tools which are going to solve every single one of your different pain points. 5,000 tools that you must buy today. 5,000 tools which are trending. 5,000, it's completely overwhelming. And the problem, as we begin to choose all these tools, as we begin to pick, say, an email tool over here, or a marketing automation tool over here, an optimization over here, all these tools get siloed. The average cxl-live attendee has more than 12 website tracking scripts in their page. 12, all doing different things, all doing separate things, none of this working together. It's madness, it's a sickness. And the sickness we all have, we call the Frankenstack. The Frankenstack is this set of siloed tools, none of which should talk to each other, none of this worked with each other. And this becomes a drag on everything. It's not just personalization, which you can't do. It's attribution, lead qualification, reporting, team alignment, let's not forget GDPR. All this falls apart when customer data falls apart. So the challenge is, how do we begin to bring all this stuff together? We might get another tool, and another tool, and another tool to solve a specific pain point. But this data is now spread out. It's all siloed all over the place. So how do we bring it back together? Well, the first option we all know, we might pull together a monthly report, pull everything together, a bunch of spreadsheets, a bunch of CSVs. But this isn't something which is easily repeatable. It's not something which is an simple process once we've got a human in the middle of it. So can we take the human out? Can we automate it? Get integrations, get Zapier, just plug everything in, right? Works perfectly. Until you find like one integration which you need just doesn't exist, like HubSpot Intercom, or the integration exists, but the actual data which you need to move from one place to the other doesn't. Or you end up with so many tools and so many ways you need to stitch this all together that it becomes impossible to manage. My favorite example of this was a team who had a 22-step Zapier process. And of course, this would rarely work, but it's impossible to know at any single stage where this problem is. And of course, the guy then left the company. So then it becomes an engineering problem, with all the joy, all the politics, and all the expense of bringing engineers and operations. And yeah, when I ran this talk through with our engineers, they were very keen to stress how the least favorite project is to integrate a ton of external services, have to maintain that over time. But when engineers do have to take this problem, operations have to take this problem, they tend to follow a data warehousing strategy. Rather than connecting everything to everything else and getting stuck in that complexity, dump it all in one place. Data warehousing, nice, cheap place to store data. And this is great for BI people, for operations people. Now they have a complete view of all their data. But as marketers, we want to take action on that data. We need to get that back in the tools which we're using. So it's half a problem, it's half a solution. So there's a company here in this room which is doing this as a strategy. They're combining all their product usage data, marketing data, sales data every day into their data warehouse, and then re-syncing into Salesforce overnight. This is a job that takes them 8 hours, starting at midnight Pacific. So the sales reps just get in the morning, they're good to go. They have all the data they need. But midnight Pacific is beginning of the working day in Europe. So the European sales reps are getting 2 different versions of their data, randomly updating throughout their entire workday. So they can't take any action on that. They can't have anything to trust. So it's useless. So there's a point at which we go down this engineering route, but it doesn't serve the purpose we need as marketers. So in 2018, there's another method. There's custom data platforms. By the time you got all these tools, there's all this complexity, you need something to sit in the middle and sync all these tools, all this logic, all this data all together. So I want to talk a bit about CDPs. You might, if you're in this room, you're probably going to be more on this end of data integration method. Sure, you might start out with something simple. You might start out with manually exporting and importing everything. But as you have more data, more complex data, you're going to end up moving maybe more towards the right. So to talk about CDPs, if you are getting more data, more complex data, and you're exploring this new category of tools, you need to look out for a few things. See, because it is such a problem, data, there are a lot of companies which pose as customer data platforms that claim to be able to solve these problems. Now, in reality, you need to find 4 things. The first, a unified customer profile. A CDP is a database. A database is everything of your customers, everything about them, everything they've ever done, according to every single tool that you've got, every single database you've got ever. It needs to be able to connect to it, not just some, but all. Second, you need to be able to transform all this raw data, which is coming in from all different places, into new data to use in other tools. For instance, your product usage data, your web analytics data, doesn't easily sync into your sales CRM. You need a way to manage this process. A code editor is helpful, and really this is where we see most people spending most of their time inside CDPs. 3, you need to be able to query this database to build and update segments of these customers. Now, this serves 2 purposes. First, to control who has been synced from what tool, but also to use these audiences, these email lists, these lists of qualified leads in your third-party tools. And then finally, you need to be able to map these fields and sync them across all your tools. Now, depending on what you're trying to do, the speed of this matters. For instance, if you're doing personalized live chat or real-time web personalization, your CDP needs to be able to work in real time. So these are the 4 things which come together for a custom data platform. This makes your custom data brain. This means you can scale that one-to-one personalization by moving this data around quickly. Now, different CDPs serve different markets. Different businesses have different data models. They use different tools. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all CDP. If you're an enterprise and you have enterprise tools and you're trying to tie together all those tools and ERPs, you might look at something like Tenfold. If you're in e-commerce and you're trying to tie together all the e-com tools, all the ad tools, and you're trying to build this customer journey, look at something like Ametria. If you're in mobile and using your mobile tools, you follow the pattern, look at something like mParticle. And if you're in B2B and you're tying together company-level logic and person-level logic across all your tools, look at something like Hull. But that's how you can bring that data together. Tools don't solve the problem. Tools don't make personalization possible out of the box. What matters is how you use this data and the experiences you can create for your tools, teams, and data. So I'm going to walk you through the 5 steps of freedom. These are the best practices we've learned from working with different marketing teams. And it's important to emphasize marketing teams, because customer data is touched by so many different people: sales, operations, engineering, finance, whatever. But the best results we've seen is when it's led by us, by marketers. We see the value. We can see how this joins together. And because they're mostly our tools, it's also our mess to clean up. Now, this all comes with a disclaimer. Because it touches so many different teams, so many different tools, this is also ripe for politics. Michael talked about organizational change. You want to go and mess up a customer data, you're going to mess up a company culture very quickly. So you might not have seen something like this before. You might have. I'm not saying this gets violent, although we've seen that, but I feel for our analytics friend over here. I feel for the CEO who's trying to figure out why people are fighting over data. And I feel for our developer who's like, I don't want anything part of this. So the first step to solving this is get in a room together. Everyone who owns customer data. This is something you can do on Monday, Tuesday morning. No dial-ins, no Jenny has entered the meeting. Everyone get in a room around a whiteboard, around a piece of paper, put aside a whole morning, a whole day. And the first thing you need to do once you've got everyone in a room is define your ideal customer profile. If you're using customer data, you need to know what customer data to look for. Previously at cxl, there have been some great talks on building personas, and Hannah was beginning to get into this and about the specificity of this. What we are looking for is to tie this to data. We need a clear, common, objective definition of our ideal customer profile. So start by the common part. Start by getting people to agree. And this is going to be part of the healing process. You're bringing sales together, finance together, operations together to try and agree who you're selling to. You need to persevere through these arguments. Just come up with a definition. So for us, maybe growing startups with many sales and marketing tools. Fine. But this is a woolly definition. We can't tie it to data. So how can we improve this? Maybe something like this. Post-Series A, SaaS startups with more than 5 million in annual revenue, using Segment, Salesforce, and Redshift. Great. You can see how this is more objective, how we can tie this to data. And here's how we got there. 3 different methods. First, we cut the fluff. No adjectives, just use nouns and verbs. This is language which is much easier to tie to data. Second, you want to be specific where that specificity matters. For instance, for us, what technologies you use means we can provide value. And third, anything that can be quantified should be quantified. So using these 3 methods, you can turn that woolly definition, that woolly persona, into something which you can tie data to. And this is good news, because now we know what data we need to source, either directly from our leads and our forms, etc., or through third-party enrichment. So in our case, looking for firmographics, data about companies, or technographics, what tools they use. And once you've got that, you want to test this out as a team. The most important thing is first and foremost getting that team alignment, that agreement. And then second, having a definition which you can tie to data. So swipe through lists of leads, lists of customers. Do they fit your definition, yes or no? Play hot or not. So now you know who you're targeting. Now next you need to understand their entire experience end to end. The key moments in the customer journey and the variations of those moments. Now, there's sort of a myth in marketing that there's no such thing as a customer funnel anymore. It's all too complex. Multi-touch attribution isn't possible. But that's not actually true with a customer data platform, with customer data integrated. Because you have everything tracked and traced. Because you have everything tracked and traced, you need to understand it. So let's talk through an example. This is Mention. Mention's a company we work with at Hull. They enable you to monitor brands, competitors, different search terms, etc. And like most SaaS companies, they have a free trial model and a request demo. The free trial takes them straight into the product. The request demo lets them talk to sales. So if we take what some of these different parts are going to look like, the request demo, maybe they started with a blog post, they requested the demo, they talked to sales, the account was created, and maybe they purchased an enterprise plan later. But similarly, we might start a blog post, end up an enterprise plan later, but we're going to go through the free trial nurture period, and we're going to subscribe to a paid plan, and ultimately end up there. But what both these paths have is a very clear lifecycle setup stage. So what you need to do is map out every single lifecycle stage in your business, in your company, and the variations of customer journey paths there, whether it's free trial and product demo, etc. And what you end up with here is sort of a grid, lifecycle stage by customer journey path variations. And now each of these gaps in this grid represents an experience you need to design. So in this case, maybe the free trial and the product demo. And you want to fill this out for the whole of your customer journey and all the variations of your customer journey. Once you have this, you can now assign the content and channels you need for each of these experiences. So for the sign-up flow, you want to associate your product and your website. For the free trial, you want to associate your product and email. and so on and so forth. So now you know who you're targeting and the experiences you're trying to design. Let's find the tools to do the job. Now at Hull, since we work with so many different companies and so many tools and so many stacks, we often get asked for tool recommendations. And we don't like to encourage people to buy tools. We like to encourage people to hire tools and fire tools to do a specific job, a job which has a description, a vacancy, if you like. And those job descriptions are really based around how customer data flows. And there's one really common pattern, which is quite easy to understand once you spot it, is that everything turns around in loops. So let me walk you through an example. On the right-hand side here, we have a profile in HubSpot. We've created an account, and we can use that to trigger an email to send. And then we can track the response from that back into a profile. So we can trigger a message and track it back. But this isn't just common to email, this is common to chat. This is common to sales. Whatever activity, whatever message is sent, we can track that response back to the profile. And we can use this model to manage our one-to-one messaging across these key channels. But this isn't the only place where we see loops. We also see loops with data enrichment. So where we have an email or something else, we want to go back and pick back more data to identify these ideal customer profiles. And also with other places, to track how our leads and customers are going through the buyer's journey, to track new lead sources, to push out to audiences on the web and ads. So the first step here in terms of hiring these tools is to identify those channels. From your customer journey mapping you've done earlier, you've identified the experiences, you've identified the channels which you want to reach people on. So for email, chat, sales, etc., we want to send messages and track the reactions. So now we can pick a tool which is going to own that profile for each channel. So for email, maybe HubSpot. For chat, maybe Intercom. And this gives us a first set of tools we want to hire. Next, we want to look at enrichment. So in Mention's case, they use Clearbit and use that data to identify ideal customers and help sales. And we want to track their progress through the buyer's journey using Stripe subscription data and Segment for web and product analytics. And finally, you want to plug in any interesting lead sources or any audiences which you want to publish to. Optimizely for web, Facebook custom audiences for ads. Together, this is a system which all works together. It's a very well-defined job. You're not wading through 5,000 tools. So you can summarize this down into a lean marketing stack, like this example for Mention. And once you've done that, you can fire the rest. You're going to notice you've got a ton of duplication across your different tools. And this is going to save you so much time, so much effort in managing the data. And it's also going to save you a bunch of money. Use money you can put towards something better, like cxl-live next year. And like I said, like we talked about earlier, this is a cultural thing. Often, like tool purchases can be a very political problem. Once you've got everyone in a room, you want to agree which tools are going to stay, which tools are going to go. So now you have the tools. How do you bring all this data together? And at Hull, we think this is a three-step process: unify, enrich, and sync. So I'm going to walk you through a life cycle here. Perhaps we've had someone been on a newsletter for a couple of months, and they've been reading our blog. And one time they're going to come to our blog, and they're going to request a demo through Intercom. Great. But we've got data in HubSpot, we've got data in Intercom. We need to bring this together. Now, to do this, we need to think beyond integrating just tools. It's not about HubSpot data being in Intercom. It's really about the profiles within that. So what's a person in HubSpot? What's a person in Intercom? Or a company in HubSpot, or a company on Intercom? But even this isn't far enough. What are the specific fields that you need to map between tools? So if there's a name, an email, a job title, a location, what is the data which is in one tool that's not in another? And it sounds very simple, it sounds very obvious, but very few companies can do this. And it's really like the bedrock of great customer data operations. What are all the fields which matter, and what are they across all your tools? So you need to map all these key profiles and all this profile data. So once we've unified that data together, we want to go and enrich it. We want to understand if this person is an ideal customer or not. So we're going to send this to Clearbit, and you see how this is a loop. We're going to get this data back, job title, location, maybe 85 other data points. And then we use this data to create a segment. A segment of qualified leads. Yes, they're a marketer. Yes, they're in a company more than 30 employees. And now we can use that segment to sync it across all our different tools. To our Salesforce instance, let our sales reps know. Maybe you'll also notify them on Slack. We can push this to optimize and present a personalized version of the website to them, and so on and so forth. And you see how these reactions will track back into the profile later. So to recap the story so far, we've defined the ideal customer profile, something we all agree on, something we can tie to data. We've mapped the entire customer journey, the lifecycle stages, the customer journey paths within that. And within each of the experiences within that, we tied content and channels to that. We've hired and fired tools, particularly around profiles, which are going to own each channel, but also enrichment, tracking, lead sources, and new audiences. And then we've understood how we're going to unify, enrich, and sync all this customer data. So now we can get onto the fun stuff we call orchestration. The possibilities come from your data and how you use it. Personalization is the end experience. This is if you walk into that small local shop, that personal thing which is going to come back to you. For us, serving thousands, millions, billions of people, it comes from how we orchestrate our data. If you're in an orchestra and 100 random musicians are playing random bits of music, it's not going to work. Whereas if you have a score orchestrated and someone to conduct it at the front, this is what you're trying to do. So to take some fun, let's talk through a couple of examples, like email. Everyone sends email. So imagine I'm Pep, and I'm emailing me to come to cxl-live, just a one-to-one thing, like I might send through Gmail. What would that perfect email look like? Maybe something like this. Hi, Ed. I noticed you haven't got your ticket for cxl-live yet. Are you thinking of coming? We've been focused this year on in-house speakers, particularly from SaaS. Have you met Hannah Abaza from Shopify? You know the deal, 3 days, resort, Justin's karaoke. And the weather in London's really not that great in March, so let me know, Pep. So this is cool. I can send that from Gmail, definitely. But can I send this from Intercom? Can I send this at scale? Well, yes. We can use data to fill in the gaps. We can write to that individual and send to lookalikes. So the first thing, hi, first name. This is the basis of personalization we've seen for years. But this isn't personalization. If I yell your name across a room, and then continue with my generic spam, I haven't said anything more meaningful. So I noticed you haven't got your ticket for cxl-live yet. We know this from Stripe. Clearbit can tell us the industry and location, so I can have the quip about SaaS and the jab at my London weather. And because we're friends on Facebook, we can make this a little more informal. But this is email. Everyone's seen email. What other things we can orchestrate with our customer data? Maybe sales conversations. If we can template emails, can we template what people say to something else? Can we cue our salespeople who to talk to, what to say, and when to say it? A lot of our customers are using Slack to do this. So here's a made-up demo request notification. Maybe Hannah's just got in touch with us and requested a demo. How do I put together a notification like this? Hannah Abaza, head of marketing, very good fit, all these different signals. She's been a blog reader for however long. This is all made-up data. But how do we put this together? Well, when that demo comes in, we can unify that with existing data we know, how they've been using the website. We can enrich it with tech stack and scoring data, and we can package this all up and sync this through something like Slack. So when your sales rep gets this, they're not at a loss in what to say. They're not, Hannah, can we have a call? It's, hey, Hannah, I noticed you got an interesting data warehousing strategy. How's that working out for you? It's a conversation starter, and you can personalize, which enables you to personalize this experience at scale. So whilst you've got everyone in a room, you want to explore these orchestration ideas together. Whilst the implementation might be done individually, it might be more tactical and technical, it's best to discuss this all together. Some of our customers we have a shared Slack channel with, particularly Drift, they have 38 people in there. 38 people from marketing, sales, operations, finance, sales ops, all over the organization. And they'll mash these different ideas together. And as you go through this and you're trying to figure out which experiences to start with, go back through this the set of experiences, the lifecycle stages you explored earlier. The best companies we see work through one at a time, and often by lifecycle stage, moving backwards. So now if you go back and look at Guillaume's talk last year, you look through his crazy ideas, you see how this comes together. You see how he has a system for unifying data, enriching it, and syncing it across all of his tools, across all of his teams. And now you see how this is possible in your organization. So if you want to learn more, if you want to geek out on this, you head to hull.io/git/cxl. You'll be able to find the slides there, a summary to-do list of the action points we walked through. Also, although we haven't had a chance to talk through some of the technical stuff, the tactical stuff, we've linked to some of the orchestrations which people are using that we've noticed. And there's also a chat on Intercom there if you've got personal questions or more specific questions about your company. So that'd be it. I think it's probably coming up time for tea. If you've got other questions, I'm very happy to talk whilst we're here. You can tweet me, email me, and check out hol.io/get/cxl. Cool.